Oh, I'm sorry again. A constitutional coup burned out here in California, and a little bit of a different video today. But it will be featuring, as all of them have recently, my foreign state issue. And this one is I'm looking for some serious investment capital and or collateralized loan or what have you. I've got a lot of stuff going on here in the way of claims against perps, aka government officials. And we have them over the ropes with the U.S. Supreme Court doing what it's doing now. In their fourth term of an all-out assault on the administrative state and just awaiting a decision they're going to be making soon in a case called SEC v. Doctrine. And they're going to strike down the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, again. So a big deal. But the bigger deal is, and there's going to be a good chunk of change to be made here. I'm going to be very generous with that because my main goal, as it always has been, is to make changes in the way the just us system works or do away with it altogether. And we're in a really rare window of opportunity here. The Supreme Court acting like a judicial court, first time in 90 years. They understand. I think they're going to have our backs on a lot of our issues. So that's in the mix. And just a little about me. I've been out here doing south in California now for over 40 years. I've had a very difficult time getting into jail. That's not hard to do these days, but with the ability I have, and I'm a known factor in the local courthouse here, and probably all the way to the Supreme Court, quote unquote, in San Francisco, because I know the right issues, I know how to get them across, and they can't answer any of them. And that's what I specialize in doing, setting unopposed records in the trial court where we can go after them and probably won't even have to file any litigation, like my Oakland case where we ended up with 700 pages on the record there, including 500 jury instructions, and we get a plea deal offer to settle, 14 charged felonies for time served because they knew they couldn't have me testifying in court, especially to a jury on what the law really was. So that's the kind of thing that I generate and I have. And it gets even better because on a limited basis, like I said, I've never been able to get into jail out here, except back on the Valentine's Day massacre of 1983, when I got arrested for the weekend after a traffic stop. And I was so stupid and ignorant at that time, I wondered why I was there. I thought jail was for bad people. Ain't not the way it worked. So that's what got me started off here. And the only time I've ever gotten back in jail here, I got arrested in a library, which is hard to do. But at the time, no internet at home, so I was there working away, and four of these law enforcement thugs came in, took four of them, mind you, and arrested me. And I found out the charge came from South Carolina, which I'd never been. I couldn't figure how you commit a crime in a case you ain't never been places. Well, it got even funnier than that. And my cross country journey took me almost 2 months on four different federal unmarked military aircraft. You'll figure that one out. Could have got me here 8 hours on TWA for crying out loud. So I finally get there, and the judge, at the arraignment, and by the way, I'm there, I'm locked down hand and foot, and in a red jail suit, which they use for murderers and crazy people, which they thought I was. And the judge read the charge, practicing law without a license. I laughed. Said the problem with that is I don't practice it. I get it right the first time. The judge was a little bit surprised by that. One of the good ones, as it turns out, by the way, and she then said, well, we have to check you out and be sure you're competent to represent yourself. I could have thrown up my hands. Oh, barf at a judge. Beretta v. California, 422 U.S. 806. Problem with that is the court also ruled in Barron v. Baltimore, 7 Peters, 243, 1828. The Bill of Rights doesn't apply to the states. Stunned the court into silence. And for the entire time I was there, and I should have been home the first week of April, not the first week of August, Didn't hear two words from the prosecutor. They didn't know what the hell to do with me because they knew I'm going to beat the hell out of them. And that's what would have happened. But it didn't, and I was there. And I can't prove it now because the judge, who was one of the good ones, was at my last hearing. And she came in with a very heavy head dressing on and just had serious treatment for brain cancer. She was dead 4 months later, which I didn't know at the time. But she realized the importance of this case and showed up, and they put me out on the street. And all I had, by the way, was the $45 I had when they arrested me in the library. I could have walked home for all these bastards cleared 3,000 miles. But in any case, it was quite an experience to be there. On a felony case, and I shut them down. That's $1 million video if I had it, which they claim not to have made. But that's the kind of portfolio I have. And in that case, by the way, while I'm sitting there alone in a jail cell, 3,000 miles away from home, I wrote a handwritten petition for habeas corpus to the U.S. Supreme Court. And my good friend Joe behind the scenes, you'll meet him when we start working together here, was able to get it to the Supreme Court. And they didn't take any action on it at the time. They would now, 8 years later, because the court we have now, I think it gets on the shadow docket and they make a ruling. That didn't happen, but they got a call in Columbia, get them out of there. And what I sensed at the time, and I can't prove, but remember those federal military aircraft, they were doing a check on me, a federal check, as a domestic terrorist. They couldn't make that stick either, because the affirmative defense for me and for you, if you follow in my footsteps, is we're adhering to the original intent of those racist framers. We want our federated Republican form of government of defined and limited powers back. Get rid of this elective despotism we have now. So that's what I represent, and I've got 230 years of knowledge off the top of my head, a cappella. An example of this, by the way, you want to watch a movie, get a hold of one called A Beautiful Mind about John Nash, a Ron Howard movie, a mathematician in the 1950s that was just doing things absolutely crazy, and no one understood it. But he made a big difference in a lot of areas of math to this day. And just coincidentally, he and I spent some time growing up in Bluefield, West Gosh, Virginia. Different eras, by the way, so we didn't have a chance to meet or anything like that. But I was there during the summers in the 1950s. It's a long story. But I have a lot in my portfolio here. It's a great investment. And the good news is about it for me, I'm in it to make changes. The money, if I ever saw a jury, and we won't, trust me, they would get it. The money is secondary. Making changes that benefit them, their children, and their posterity. That's a winner, winner chicken dinner. And all I have on the other side is what? A handful of attorneys in there with $2,000 design receipts. That doesn't work. And I think we still have the window to change it. And I may be reaching a bit, which is true. I read between the lines with the U.S. Supreme Court, which is also true. But I'm also very good at doing that and knowing what they're really saying. And that's what's important. That's what gets the checkbook back, because they pay us off to shut you and I up and prevent us from filing criminal charges, particularly treason. And that's where the big bucks come in, because if that happens, wow. And it could. I mean, they have an oath to be bound by this Constitution and laws enacted and pursuant thereof. Goodness, I haven't said a word yet, but to get hold of me, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. And we can discuss some things back and forth with email. Perhaps meet if that's possible, or do a Zoom appearance and discuss things, about how to do this, because this is the best deal you'll ever get to see, what I have and what I can do. And it's a gift from upstairs. I know that. My great health is likewise a gift from upstairs to keep me around long enough, maybe even to finish the job. That's how good it is. I'm almost 76 years old. My wife is still ahead of me. About. And that's what I want to teach other people, to do the same thing and take control of their lives and take it away from this de facto national socialist government. That said, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. We can discuss it a lot more and go from there. And we'll see you in the next video the next time. Thank you.